And staying on with China, here's a question. Is China trying to hide something again? And the trigger for that question is China's handling of the COVID-19 infections. It seems to know something that the rest of the world does not. Maybe another wave, another deadly variant, or something else that's imminent. And I say this because China is preparing for a sharp rise in COVID-19 cases. It is setting up medical facilities around the country. ICU beds are being ramped up. The country is preparing for the worst. But why is that even happening? Well, the virus cases in China have fallen apparently. On Sunday, for example, China recorded a little over 10,800 new cases. A day ago, that number was above 10,800. So things seem to be looking better, in fact, much better if you account for the 30,000 plus daily cases that China was reporting just a couple of weeks ago. What then explains the scaling up of its medical infrastructure? Why is China building the new medical facilities and the hospital beds when cases are falling? I'm not saying countries should not prepare for emergencies. Of course they should. It is the duty of every country and its government to ensure that there are enough hospital beds to cater to its population in times of crisis. Also, the need to ramp up medical infrastructure is one of the many things that countries have learned from the first few waves of the COVID-19 pandemic. They are installing oxygen plants, adding new wings to their hospitals, making provisions for new ICU beds. But China is different. You cannot read China from the same lens that you see the rest of the world. Because in Xi Jinping's China, things are rarely black and white. So when China is building hospitals with the speed that it is, it's more than just concern. China is likely confused on how to deal with this virus, or it is hiding something. Which one of the above is more likely? The point about confusion stems from the fact that Chinese policies are not in sync. On one hand, the country is relaxing the zero COVID measures, and on the other, it is ramping up the medical infrastructure. You see, after almost 3 years of ordeal, the people of China are finally being allowed to get a slight taste of normalcy. Mass testing has been scaled down and it has ended large-scale lockdowns as well. Mandatory quarantine in central facilities. China is telling the world that it has moved on from President Xi Jinping's signature zero COVID policy. Take, for instance, what happened earlier today. China retired its major COVID-19 virus tracking app. It's called Communications Itinerary Card. The phone application tracks whether a person has been to a high-risk area, and the Chinese had to show their card, the itinerary card, while traveling between provinces, entering public spaces or events. And this app was extremely symbolic, almost like an emblem of China's zero COVID policy. This app was run by the state, and it goes offline at midnight. The move is being hailed as a milestone. Some are calling it the end of an era. Long story short, China is throwing the towel on tough COVID-19 restrictions, or you could say it's being forced to do so. You remember the protests that rocked China a couple of weeks ago? Hundreds were out on the streets of major Chinese cities protesting, sloganeering, calling for an end to zero COVID, also for an end to the presidency of Xi Jinping and the rule of the Chinese Communist Party. Like I was telling you back then as well, the protests had shaken the Chinese power center. China had not seen such uproar, such civil disobedience since the Tiananmen Square uprising of 1989. Beijing was quick to react. It offered an olive branch to the protesters in the form of relaxed zero COVID policy. And even when it was not in a position to, we have been telling you, people know this and they are evidently scared. People have been panic buying drugs, hoarding and eating way too many peaches. The rumor doing the rounds in China is that yellow peaches can help recovering from the virus, while eating oranges can lead to a positive antigen result. And such is the commotion that the Communist Party has had to step in. Its mouthpiece, the People's Daily, had to warn people against falling for these false beliefs. And what this shows is that there is a fear in China that the mayhem could come soon, that the virus may become out of control. Is that what explains these new hospitals, or is there more? In China, there is always more to what meets the eye, so one cannot help but ask, is China hiding something? Does it have knowledge of an imminent wave? What is it that China is trying to hide? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.